All right, we're going to begin the meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Tuesday, November 22nd. With me is Alderman Mark Stoyer and Alderman Tom Slottick. Alderman Tom DeWayne is excused, and I am Chair Joe Moore. We'll begin with an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Item number 3, approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes from October 25th. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. We'll start with the report of the purchasing manager. Consideration with possible action, the request for approval to award a 5-year contract for assessment services to Forward Appraisal, Inc. for $240,000, it's $48,000 per year, with options for 2 one-year renewals by mutual consent. All right.
Give you a little background. We bid this service out 6 years ago, and Forward Appraisal was the awarded vendor. It was an RFP. We received 3 responses, a total of 4 proposals, and Forward Appraisal was the recipient. They've been working for the assessor's office for the last 10 years and doing very satisfactory work. This year we only received a proposal from them. One of the proposers that proposed 6 years ago, Associated Appraisal Consultants, elected not to bid this year because they would have had to hire a part-time appraiser and were unable to offer them any other work to, turn that into a full-time position. The third proponent that from 6 years ago was Tyler, and they were not awarded because they will not do the entire job. They won't. They cap the number of residential properties that they would do in commercial properties, so they couldn't perform all of the services required by the city. The appraiser's office is recommending the award to the incumbent, Forward Appraisals. They're going to do work for the next 5 years at the same $48,000 per year that they've been doing it for the last 6. Prior to that, they were charging the city $60,000. So we're getting good service for a reasonable amount of money, and that's the recommendation.
Question.
Yes. Yes.
What is this work?
They're actually doing commercial valuation and residential as needed, and then a lot of reports with the new software that we have, they're more experienced with it. So they're helping with the new software downloads to the Department of Revenue that's required by them.
So is this work that is beyond the capacity of our staff to handle?
No, originally we had cut staff back when we reorganized. This is in replacement of 3 permanent staff that we had at that time. So the part-time person, this 20 hours a week, actually replaces 3 full-time staff that we had at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Russ, could I ask you real quick, just, does this include putting the data into the city system? If we go to the city assessor's website and...
Yeah, the data flows through. We've got it worked out with Micronic to, when we update our information, when it's all set in time, then it flows through into the city's website.
Okay, and what is the process for having that information updated when it comes to things like expired, like photos? We have got some really, really old photos.
That's one of the things that we're working on. It's not something, as we go through and do permits and we do new houses, we do take photos, but we don't have a dedicated person to go around and take pictures of the properties. When we do have time, we do take pictures of them, but it's not a high priority. If we had more staff, we would do that, but it's not something that we generally do as a course of business. But as the time comes through, if we are at the property, I encourage our staff to take pictures, to update those.
Okay.
I understand that there are some older pictures out there, and if people want to submit pictures that are newer to us, we can upload current pictures.
Just for fun, check my house out someday.
All right, I'll make sure I'll drive by.
All right, is there any other questions from, all right, I will accept the motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And none are opposed. Great, thank you. Item number 5, consideration with possible action, the request from the Excess Sales Tax Subcommittee to report the recommendation of the $1 million allocated for economic development.
So
Is
in
there any
your
discussion?
Is there, in your packet is the final listing that came out of our meeting last week. Alderman Dorf, who is the chair of that committee, is here. You have any questions for her?
Sure. Alderperson Dorf, would you like to just address anything? Or just kind of give us, I mean, we read the summary, we know what's on here, but.
Okay, so we made a few changes. Part of the changes were based on the reallocation of some of the money that would have been used for infrastructure to cover the shortfall in the budget. And so there was a concern on my part that there would not be then the money to cover some of the parks projects that we'd hoped. I don't know that that's true or not true, but in effect, that's why we brought forward the Red Smith proposal again, that initially we were going to fund for $50,000, then we took it out, hoping it could be funded with some of that other money from the excess sales tax, then we put it back in. And to do that, we took, I think it shows you little bits off of some of the projects that were funded at a higher amount. We also then voted to add the Green Bay Botanical Gardens for $25,000, and then funded the Children's Museum and the National Railroad Museum, increased those by $25,000 as well. And was there one more, Dawn? I thought,
It was, let's see, we reduced the website by 25, reduced the foundry by 25, reduced the revolving loan fund by 25, reduced the Green Bay Public Arts by 25, and St. Vincent de Paul by 10, and then we allocated $50,000 to Red Smith. We reduced Eland Electric Green Bay by 10, and then you made the appropriate adjustments, $25,000 each to the National Railroad Museum, Children's Museum, and the Botanical Gardens.
okay, so then leave it out again. Do you have any questions about that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we advance this report to the full council for consideration.
I'd like to speak to this first, please.
Sure. Can you do a second for discussion?
Okay, then there are some other folks that are in the audience as well, so.
Is that second?
Second?
I need a second for discussion.
I'll second that.
All right, so we had a motion and a second to approve this as presented, and we'll just open the floor up here for anyone who's interested for discussion. Yes, Alderman Zima.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend, really in all sincerity, that you adopt our final recommendation, not the revised final recommendation. Really, what was done at our last meeting almost made a mockery of our whole effort. We'd spent a lot of time, better part of one whole day, plus some more time, coming down through a whole set of criteria of deciding, what fit the definition of economic development, which things would most promote economic development, would really put some, jobs maybe permanently back into the city and help keep our economy stronger. And truthfully, even our final recommendation, which is the first column, had a few things in it that I felt were a stretch. But I was convinced by Alderman Galvin that, making even some small contributions to things like the Children's Museum and the National Railroad Museum, the House of Hope and the Kroc Community Center, that those things, it would show that the city was at least giving its nod of approval. The money we're giving in no way really made or broke the projects, but it just was a kind of a, hey, we like what you're doing. If us contributing something will help you with your fundraising, because these projects are quite a bit bigger than just the money we're giving. They're way bigger. So, and that's what it was. And so I felt I made an appropriate compromise at that committee. Then we come back just to approve, to look at I don't want to call it a late submission. It was a submission that was somehow neglected within our finance department and just didn't get on the agenda our first time. So we thought it was only fair to look at it. And then we were there to look at just that. Well, in comes the total topsy-turvy effort by the part of the other two members on the committee. So in one fell swoop, after hours and hours of work, in which we all unanimously agreed, by the way, that, for instance, this is just an example, the Green Bay Botanical Gardens, while we thought it was a good project, etc., we didn't think it was appropriate. That's an attraction, whether they advance it or don't advance it. And, well, all of a sudden, Mr. Galvin comes in and it becomes Santa Claus time for what I don't think are really economic development. And worse than that, they take it out of the things that do go for economic development. For instance, a revolving loan account. Yeah. Getting our website up to date, to full stretch. So I really feel coming in and having a 15, 20-minute little debate about adding all these things in, just because they seem to be, well, what the other members felt were pet projects. In the case of the Red Smith bathrooms, well, I'm 100% improvement of it. We had agreed at committee that that was something that should come under, the capital improvements, which is something you folks have to look at. And so they originally took the money in. I was actually in favor of leaving money in the first time, but the committee decided on, and this final recommendation is really what I think you should adopt. That's what we had decided on after a lot of work. And then, well, Ms. Dorff thinks that, well, maybe because we gave some of the money to tax relief from the, infrastructure, that maybe there wouldn't be enough for Red Smith. So she wanted to put it back onto economic development. Well, it's a pretty big stretch to call that economic development. Again, it's not that I'm not opposed to the project, I'm in favor of it. But there's a very long list of projects in the park department. This is only one of them. And I certainly have no problem with whatever you folks decide on what things you want for building infrastructure. But this, I think, is not worthy. The work that was done, and there was a little compromising all the way through. I thought we had good sessions. That's what should be adopted, not this enhancement, this final recommendation. All of a sudden, the Botanical Gardens, again, nothing wrong with Botanical Gardens. It's just that we had unanimously agreed in the beginning that that didn't even fit the scope for us. Although it could technically draw tourism and stuff like that. It's a big touristic draw right now. So we felt these were contributions, at least I did, and the whole committee. But all of a sudden, it became trick or treat time. And in 5-10 minutes, switched all the work that we worked on for hours and hours and hours. So I really think that's what you should adopt, the final recommendation, and I'd like to see some discussion on that.
I have one question.
Sure, yes, Alderman Sawyer.
Alderman Zima, I'm looking at the final recommendations and the revised, they're both add up to 1 million. And without doing all the math, I mean, each one of the final recommendations to the revised recommendations are, quite a few of them are $25,000 less. Is there, it seems like the biggest jump is the Red Smith. That's the one I see that's most,
Well, if you just take a look and see what's cut out.
I'm just looking at,
Taking care of the website, they took 25,000 out of that.
yeah.
The neighborhood works, they took 25,000 out. We felt those are producing jobs. The revolving loan fund, I thought 175,000 was a small number. And then cut it down to 150. I mean, it could be double or triple what we'd originally, but we have to operate under limitations. But so we're going for all these kind of charity things down here and actually taking away from economic development. I just feel it was totally against what we'd worked on for hours. And they just decided that their little favorites should have something. And again, none of them are unworthy of something for our community. But you see what they took it away from, so.
Alderman Sly?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak on behalf of my motion, which was to advance this to the council. And I specifically chose the word advance it to the council for consideration as opposed to stamp it with committee approval. It's been my experience on this particular matter that the council wants to deal with this as a committee of the whole. And we tried to deal with it as a finance committee, and the council rejected actions we were taking because they wanted to deal with it differently, so we formed a subcommittee. I think the work of the subcommittee now should go to the committee of the whole, to the full council, and let the council have at it. And I would invite Alder Zima to make the same case to the council that you're making tonight.
Well, we were formed to make the best judgment we could and recommend to you.
Right.
And I think what we started with, what we finally finalized, our original finalization, is really what you should recommend forward, if you want to talk amongst yourself about the differences. But, I mean, otherwise, you just say, well, let's throw them all up, and then I'd say, let's bring all the projects in and let's have another presentation. I think you're looking for a recommendation. The first column represents,
And your committee has made a recommendation.
Yeah, well,
And I'm suggesting.
it was
that we forward
flippant.
that to
I'm
the
telling you, it
council
was flippant.
And let the council deal with that
we
recommendation.
worked for many hours on the first column. That second column was done without my approval, I'll tell you that, in like 10, 15 minutes.
I think that the final recommendation and the revised recommendation should be the two options that the council is presented with. And as a committee of the whole, we can decide between which option we would like
All
to
right,
go
I
with.
just, I'd
Rather
like to
than
make that delegate.
start moving 10,000 here and putting it
Right.
there, and I wouldn't want the council to start getting into that discussion, but I would like them to make a
Well,
choice.
I
between
think
the
they're
two.
open to do whatever they want, really.
Right,
I mean, you
right.
said that earlier, but I think if you present it that we're presenting the two options for the council to choose from, but I think you should point out, you know, the first column is the one we spent hours and hours and hours on. The last one was done in 10 little short minutes.
I concur with both of you on that, too. I think
I'd
we
be
should-
willing to modify my motion to advance to
Bring
the
both
council
options.
the report as presented to us, both the final and the revised recommendations, and let the council decide.
I would second that.
Okay, and for discussion, we do have an open floor if anybody else wants to speak on these items. Okay, I'll make a motion, or,
Nope.
yeah, I'm sorry, come on. If you could come up to the.
I'll make a motion, open the floor. Or is it, was it open?
I opened it,
Okay,
yeah,
all
it's
right,
open.
all right.
I wrote your name down.
If you could just give your name and address and then just address the committee.
Kathy Hartman, 2733 Artesian Way, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm on the board for the Green Bay Botanical Gardens, and I just wanted to make a few comments, and I won't drag it out. I did watch the process, the video of the process that was conducted to make the decisions, and initially, there was a matrix and criteria that were established, and the Green Bay Botanical Gardens was the first item that was discussed. And there was a discussion about, let's just do thumbs up, thumbs down. So the process changed after the Botanical Gardens. So most of the committee felt that they met the criteria, but then they decided not to do it with the thumbs up, thumbs down. And then after that, they really changed their process and never really circled back to the garden. So I just think that's something to also consider. And when you talk about economic development, right now, there was a study done by St. Norbert College in 2015 for Green Bay Botanical Garden. Their economic impact, annual economic impact is nearly $6 million. With this new project by 2020, with the increase in visitors, it is expected to be $10 million annual impact of the garden. So it's definitely an economic development type project, and I think fits the criteria beautifully for these funds.
Alderman Steuer?
Thank you, Chair. Kathy, thanks for coming in. There's no doubt that, you have impact in this community. Originally, the mayor's budget had called for $250,000,
Right.
and this is a lot smaller. Do you feel that, at least with what is proposed here, that that's something that will work well with your organization, or was it what is your take on that amount?
I think it does. Yes, it's definitely smaller than what we had requested. We are wrapping up our campaign, and we are still short. So I think the funds would definitely be of help to us. So.
Sorry, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Kathy?
Yeah.
Get your address again?
Yes, 2733 Artesian Way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just
Yep,
sit in the back.
come on up. Behind you.
Behind you?
I'm sorry, you, sir?
Oh,
Yeah, that was
Come on up.
pointing at him.
perfect.
We'll get you.
All right.
Robert Reardon, 2957 South Telemark Circle, Green Bay.
Can you say that again?
2957 South Telemark Circle, Green Bay. I do have a tendency to speak too fast sometimes.
Well, and I'm also just writing down all the notes from
Oh.
Ms. Hartman as well, so.
No problem. I am working on the National Railroad Museum, and I wanted to thank the committee for looking at the issue again. One of the things that I don't think the committee was originally aware of, and it was the fact that the goal of the National Railroad Museum is to raise at least half of the funds that we need from outside the community. Recently flew down to Kansas City to meet with one of the major railroads in the nation. We've asked them to work with other railroads to try to raise $10 million to bring it in. This is a national museum, and the idea behind it is as a national museum, we want to make sure that people from across the country contribute to it being successful. The response I got back was very positive. They came back and said that, first of all, when I showed the museum and what we're planning on doing with it, they came back and said, when I said, we feel this is iconic, we feel it is like the Sydney Opera House as far as how beautiful it's going to be and how it will stand out nationwide. The gentleman that we talked to came back and said, no, you're wrong, it's not iconic. It's beyond iconic. It is going to be incredible. So they're very excited about it. And I said, so do you guys want to be the lead gift in this and to help us out? And they said, no. So we have no problem at all being involved in this. And we have no problem at all being a follow-on lead. And as a matter of fact, help to close out the campaign. We will not take the leadership role. And the reason we won't is if the community of Green Bay is not interested in it, if the people of Green Bay are not interested in it, then why would we be interested in it? If you won't support it in the long haul, and you won't be there in the long haul, then why should we be there? Originally, we went to the city of Green Bay. We had looked for $250,000. What came back at the $6,000 one was very difficult for us in the sense that it made the message that it gave was not support by the city, but an afterthought. And that was a difficult thing. With this additional $25,000, it gives us a stronger case to say that the community is solidly behind it. I would prefer to see in the final analysis to be at least a $50,000, because I think the message that gets across there is this is a solid commitment and we're willing to put millions and millions of dollars into Green Bay. We're also going to be talking to GE. We're going to be talking to GM beyond these, and we're also talking to other groups that are involved in the railroad industry. Ultimately, the final amount that we hope to raise is $50 million, of which at least 25 to 30 would come from outside the community. But again, you have to plant the seeds. The oak doesn't grow overnight. The seeds need to be planted. And the city of Green Bay has that opportunity to plant those seeds. And so, as I say, I'm very pleased that there was an increase. I would like to see it get to the 20 or to the 50,000 if it's all possible that the council can do that. Again, for the sole purposes of feeding the idea and getting others involved. This is, by the way, we're moving from about 85,000 people attending to over $200,000 or 200,000 people attending in the first 6 months is what we expect to see. So a dramatic increase as far as what we turn in and the amount of money that comes into the city. So thank you. Any questions or?
Thanks for coming in, Mr. Reardon. Did the museum make requests of the other municipalities that got excess sales tax dollars, and what was the result?
We, as far as the others that got sales tax dollars, I'm not sure if we did. I don't know that we did. I don't believe we did, but I shouldn't say that. I think we did, but I don't know what happened with that, quite frankly. The only one I was aware of was the city of Green Bay. We did talk to the county. I talked to the county exec myself, and their feeling was that they don't do those kind of things. They didn't know how to do it. So we're gonna have to go back to them, because again, that doesn't send the right signal. But we do think that the city of Green Bay certainly is where the real signal comes from.
Did you consider the village of Ashwaubenon, since that's where the museum is located?
That's in Green Bay.
It's actually on city property.
It's on city property.
It's on
Okay,
city
thank you. I
property.
didn't
It's a
know
city,
that.
yeah, it's a city, it's on a city park. And as a matter of fact, the city is, it's a 5-year lease
Great.
from the city.
Thank you, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
All right.
Alderman Steuer, you have a question?
Well, actually, I just wanted to clarify that as well. It is a Green Bay property, so I can understand if you didn't approach those other communities. And I appreciate all the work that you folks do as well. I think one of the problems, even with the subcommittee and with the council and our committee, is that there have been so many requests and there are so many good projects. So please don't feel slighted in that sense. We consider you to be an asset to this community. We really do. So we'll take your thoughts into consideration as we move forward. But I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon. Anybody else like to speak on it? Yes, Alderperson Dorff.
So I do want to assure the Finance Committee that a great deal of thought and compromise went into the proposals. If you look at what we did end up with, all but 2 were originally on the final recommendation. The 2, Red Smith was added back because that was on a preliminary recommendation. And then the Green Bay Botanical Gardens is the only one that is absolutely new. So none of the work we did in those prior meetings was wasted at all. Alder Galvin, look at the meeting, did want more to go to some of these, the ones toward the bottom there, the National Railroad Museum, Children's Museum, Botanical Gardens. In the spirit of compromise, we worked back and forth with what can we do to make it fair. We talked a little bit about the website, knowing that they could probably do it with a little bit less than the money that we had given to them. That was one reason we took some of the funding from there. Knowing the National Railroad Museum is in a park. It's another reason the same reason that we did with Red Smith, because thinking that there wouldn't be as much from the infrastructure money that might have gone to parks. So there was really a lot of thought. It was more than a 10-minute meeting, and I just wanted to let you know that we worked very hard to try to come up with some good compromises. So that's all I got. Guys, have any questions?
Well, the recommendation here is that we send both of these, the original final recommendation and the revised recommendation to the council for discussion. So, I mean, is that?
I will tell you, the committee voted.
Fine.
The committee made a recommendation. The recommendation is the revised recommendation. It's up to you to do whatever you want. You left it in our hands, and one person didn't vote for it, and the rest did. So
Okay.
you have to decide what you want to do.
Ms. Blair, do you have a question?
Oh, did you have a question?
Oh, no, actually, thank you, Bart. No.
Is there anybody else from the floor that would want to speak on any of these items? Okay, I would accept the motion to close the floor.
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to return to regular order. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Alderman Steuer, yes.
Thank you, Chair. So we have the final recommendation, and we have a revised recommendation. And Mr. Reardon had asked for $50,000 instead of $41,250. Are we going to be looking specifically at these 2 recommendations that are these 2 columns, or is it going to be
That's what the current motion is.
the current motion? We're just going to stay with that?
Well, we asked the subcommittees to do a job, and they did it. And now,
We're just,
Forward their work.
you know, we do have the second recommendation that was made, and I just think we need
all
to
right,
discuss both
I'm
of
just
these.
looking at, okay,
At least I would support that motion.
all right, that's all I have.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to advance both of these recommendations to the council for a final vote on it at our next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None. Okay. Item number 6, consideration with possible action, the request by the Excess Sales Tax Subcommittee that the Finance Committee consider the proposal made by Bellin Hospital to purchase either faucet-mounted filter devices or a pitcher with filtering capabilities as a stopgap solution for lead and water at a proposed cost of $260,000 from the allocation set aside for infrastructure. What is that all about?
Well,
Okay, so this is a proposal that was brought before Finance as well as Protection and Welfare, and that is the pure water filter.
Right.
So that was the additional proposal that came in, hit my spam, and that was made to the Excess Sales Tax Subcommittee, opted to send it to Finance Committee to see if you would consider funding it using infrastructure dollars.
I thought that was a recommendation from Mr. Hoy.
well,
Well, he sent it to the Excess Sales Tax Subcommittee of Economic Development, and they did not
Doesn't go through.
approve that one,
Okay.
and that's why it's being sent here. it's your pleasure.
But now Bellin Hospital, what's Mr. Hoy's association with Bellin Hospital?
I do
Their
not
name is on
know,
this.
but it's, Bellin Hospital is the one that actually sent through the application, but it was of all of the information that Mr. Hoy had presented to you earlier this year.
And you're saying that the committee denied it?
Correct.
Okay.
Suggesting to use the dollars in the infrastructure pool of money instead of the economic development pool of money.
Dawn, is there somebody from Bellin who would want to speak to this?
No.
That's a quote,
I move to receive and place on file.
I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to receive on file, receive and place on file this request. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Okay. Item number 7, consideration with possible action on the city's notice of intent to withdraw as a member of the Cities and Villages Mutual Insurance Company as of January 1st, 2018, with the right to rescind our notice at any time prior to September 6th of 2017, per the consent of the CVMIC Board of Directors granted at their November 16th, 2016 board meeting. Ms. Chavez.
Thank you. So this is coming before you because after I started here, it became clear that the city has never actually gone out to bid on our insurance company in the 40 years that we've been with our insurance company. We decided that it was appropriate at this point to do an evaluation. We did contact another one just to kind of figure, or other communities to find out what their services are being provided and whatnot, and we decided that moving forward with an RFP was a good idea. We went out to bid, and what we found is that CIVMIC's price cannot be beat at this point. However, the services that are provided by WMIC, which is the same insurance company that the county uses, are incredibly superior to what CIVMIC offers. We are basically acting as our own third-party administrator with CIVMIC, meaning that we're handling all the claims in the law department, which consumes almost an entire person's time. With WMIC, we would be gaining almost an entire person's time back. And so with that savings, it makes it fairly competitive. However, when we spoke to CIVMIC, they were open to the idea of seeing if they could increase the services they provide to us, which would make them the best benefit for sure. What we are asking at this point is to submit our notice of intent to withdraw from CIVMIC with the understanding that we can rescind that notice at any point up until September 6, 2017. Colleen and I went and talked to their board last week. They consented to that as well. And so what we're doing at this point is just a precaution. If we are not able to find adequate services either from, or if CIVMIC finds that they can't provide the services we need, or if we determine that the services they're providing aren't adequate for us, we would either have to wait another year in order to move on, or we have to provide this notice so that we can get out of it going forward. So that's what we're looking for right now.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Great, thank you. Item number 8 is consideration of possible action, the request by the City Attorney's Office to review and approve the report of the Claims Committee for August, October 2016. That report is attached at the back of the package. Is there any discussion from the committee on these items? We do have the opportunity to go into closed session if it's
I
advised by legal.
suppose I probably would do that because I had a couple questions on this.
So as a caveat, the only one that needs to go into closed session at this point is that top one, the Kelly Sliger claim.
Okay.
That's the one that requires
Just the first
approval.
item. Did anybody need to speak on the first
That's the only thing
item?
we have to act on. The others are already done.
Yes. So I'm able to report on any of the other ones in open session.
Okay,
Okay, fine.
great. Do you have any questions, Ellen Sawyer?
I think this might be more of a general question, Vanessa, but on page 2, you know, I see a number of these where there's like a trip and a fall on a sidewalk. I realize, you know, there's not a whole lot of information given on that type of thing, and I don't know if that's just a normal standard practice by the city to do something like that, or, I don't know, I realize you can't describe the whole issue on one line, but, you know, I just look at things like that, and I'm just wondering, I wonder how that happens, so is there a way to you'd have to look at each case, I guess.
We can give you a more detailed explanation of what the claim, I mean, we can't go into a complete analysis of it, but we
No, I
can give you a little more
understand,
details
but I'm
as
just-
what you like.
And I just don't know if there's a better way to report that out, because, you know, these are fairly standard. And, you know, I've dealt with one or two of these with constituents, and there's times where you just go, you wonder how that was denied, and, you know, it's one person's statement and such versus someone else's, and I don't know, I'm just trying to get a handle on that a little bit.
So what I can tell you on most of those trip and falls is either the city didn't have advance notice, it was in our sidewalk, or it was in an area that the city, like they were not crossing in a crosswalk, they were crossing in another area where they shouldn't have been crossing, and so there was negligence on their part, not on the city's part. When we are denying them, it's based on the totality of the circumstances. It's usually very specific.
Well, I found in one of, there was a claim that one business owner in Velp had some time ago, which the city denied it, but then he had video that showed different things. So I guess that would behoove some of the complainants to have some kind of documentation or something to that effect, but because it seems like some of these are difficult to get through. So it was more of a general statement, that's all I had.
So that actually brings up one of the other things. If we are able to improve our services, one of the things that we may be looking at with CIVNIC is the claims committee not being the party that actually is making the recommendation as far as approval of the claims. Our insurance company is adjusters. They are the ones who really know how much claims are worth, what we should be settling for, or what we should not be settling for. We're good at assessing liability, but the value of a claim isn't something that we're really set to handle. So moving forward, we will likely be bringing back to you guys ordinances, changing the way the claims committee is structured. And then at that point, we'll be giving direction to our insurance carriers to what it is that we want from them in providing the recommendations to the council, reporting out the numbers that they're bringing.
So these reports may change a little bit in their scope.
Correct. But even until that point, what we're doing in-house, we can definitely provide more information. So for example, when we put denied, we can give you the explanation. So some of them are denied because we asked for additional information, they never provided it.
That would help if you could do that. I
Sure.
would appreciate that.
Yes, Alderman
Mr.
Clark.
Chairman, I move approval of the Claims Committee report.
And I would second
I have a
that.
motion and a second to approve. Can I just ask one question real quick? What is our standard follow-up on these? I mean, I imagine that we do an investigation, obviously, to see if, you know, if it was, for instance, one of our sidewalk slabs. Do we then have some kind of a request made to the Department of Public Works to have it repaired, like, within a timely fashion? Or is there do we have a policy on following up on these, to make sure the event doesn't happen again?
So we are in the process of changing the way we are doing things, but we also have a process in place that's working relatively well. What will happen when the claim comes through is we start immediately gathering information. So the claim gets sent on to whichever department it comes out of. For example, if it's a sidewalk issue, it goes to DPW. If it's a tree issue, it goes to forestry. If it's a squad car, it goes to the police. And we ask them to provide us with any information they have regarding it. Once we get into the claims committee, at that point, we're evaluating it to see if, if there's still gaps in information, we just don't know what's going to happen, if there's something we're missing, or if we don't know if it was actually how much they're saying it was, or if we're missing witness statements or something. And at that point, we're asking for them to either provide that, supplement that information from the department, or if it's not something we can get from the department, we ask for it from the claimant themselves.
Okay. Just so long as these things are getting fixed.
Yes, and then once they have noticed that there is an issue there.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to accept. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? None. Great. Thank you, Attorney Charles.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is consideration with possible action the request by the Finance Director to enter into an agreement with Airbnb to provide room tax collection services on behalf of the city to their clients. Director Fuller.
Thank you, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Diana Allenbecker. She knows more about Airbnb, but we want to use them as our conduit for collecting room tax. Currently, they are not collecting room tax on the city of Green Bay.
Interim Director Ellenbecker.
Thank you. We actually have worked with the attorney to, she has gone through an agreement that Airbnb has provided to the city. And there, at this time, no one in the state of Wisconsin is using Airbnb. There's a prearranged agreement between Airbnb and a municipality. A couple other municipalities have looked at it, but we have gone through, and the attorney has gone through, and she has reviewed the agreement and has gone back and forth, and is close to wanting to sign an agreement. What it will do, it will, anyone who rents within the city of Green Bay, rental a portion of their property or a property for short-term rentals, what we used to call like the Packer housing, but now anyone who uses the Airbnb site to rent, if you book through their site, they will, at the time of the rental, they will put tax right on that, the price of it, and they will collect it on the behalf of the homeowner. And then on a monthly basis, they will submit it to the city. These are dollars that we're not currently collecting.
And then that would be a hotel tax fund,
Yeah,
a hotel tax for CAD maintenance? and-
It would be the full
okay.
10%, just like any other hotel would pay, and then it would go through the same distribution. It would go to our Associated Bank Trust Fund, and at that point, Trust would divvy it up to the CBB and then back to the different funding sources and pay the debt services.
Okay, and how do we, I guess there's no way really to ensure the other municipalities will get on board, but what about like the suburbs here that are doing the same? It'd be nice for us all to be on the same page.
Attending the Room Tax Commission, all the municipalities are trying to different approaches to try to tackle these short-term rentals.
Okay. I know Wabanon did zone change,
Correct.
change some zoning, so.
Yep, and then we had Marty Weber also, who's on the Room Tax Commission. He also came in and met with us in Green Bay, and he brought it back to the commission, Room Tax Commission, and explained to them what we are planning to do. And we, there are other municipalities that are thinking about it, considering it. I think they're gonna wait till Green Bay starts it up. The Airbnb has a very specific GPS, or not GPS, GIS system, that if they're in, just because they say Green Bay address, this way they will only pick up ones that are within the corporate city limits of Green Bay.
Okay.
So at that point, we will know that we're only getting the Green Bay's rentals. But other municipalities are gonna think about it. They're all are approaching it in different ways. And, they figured in the next couple of months, we would come back and we would recap what it did for the city. And then other municipalities might jump on board. Again, some of the other ones have approached these short-term rentals different ways. As you said, Wabanon has actually hired somebody to find anyone who's renting, to give them a list. They're paying someone to find lists of people who are renting, and then they're going to deal with those that are really renting and not paying room tax. They're all doing different approaches.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Alderman Steuer.
Thank you, Chair. Diana, just some of the reading and some of the thoughts I've had from other folks that have used these B&Bs. You feel that Visitor and Convention Bureau, have you talked to the folks there at all on this issue? I guess.
Yes, Brad Toll also attends the
Right.
tax commission meetings, and he's 100% on board with this because it really takes away
Okay.
it takes away business from the local hotels, from the Hotel Association. So they're all on board because then it just makes it a little more even playing field for the hotels, and it actually, what it does, it also, if they, I guess, when they go through the Airbnb site, that it provides the homeowner some, there's additional insurance, that type of thing, if they're going through Airbnb. So the city, if somebody was to rent there and something was to happen, like Airbnb actually has some insurance. So what it does, it gives them, I guess that's a little more assurance that this person who is renting through Airbnb, somebody may not be put themselves, I guess they're not in a situation that they're not being covered if something happened at that
Right.
facility.
Okay.
Well, I think that was a big point of contention, that the fact that folks were renting out and no taxes being charged.
And the VCB has everything to gain because they get their 2% off the 10%.
Right.
True.
Alderman Slide?
Yes, I had a couple of questions. Typically, when we're asked to approve the city entering into an agreement, we get to see the agreement. Is there a reason that this one is not in our packet or before us?
I believe we do have a final one, and I'm sorry that we didn't include it, but we can certainly include it with the minutes if that will be adequate. I do have a copy, though, a copy here, but it's not the final, but I certainly can get that for you before you leave tonight. I can bring it back up and give you copies.
My other question to Diana is, Diana, what's your point of view about having the city do this, given that the room tax is broader than just the city? Why wouldn't it be the room tax commission entering into this agreement with Airbnb?
I may let Vanessa address that one. She has done research on it.
Thank you, Attorney Chavez.
So we actually have the same thought, which is this is bigger than the city, it should be the room tax commission. However, what we discovered is that the taxing authority lies with the municipality. So the room tax commission has zero authority to actually collect it. That's something that only the municipalities themselves can do.
I have a question.
Yes, Alderman Steuer?
And I, actually, Vanessa or Diana too, these Airbnbs, do they set their own prices, or, the homeowners, they get, it's up to the customer to decide whether they go in or not?
Yes.
So there's no set type price? Okay. All right, that's all.
All right. Accept an action on this?
I'll move approval.
I will second.
Got motion and a second to approve, and then we could just add the caveat to just make sure we add the contract with the minutes.
We will bring it up to you.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. And opposed? None. Great. And item number 10, report by the finance director or interim finance director? Well, finance director tonight.
We are working through finalizing the changes to the budgets, updating our system to have all the changes in, and we are waiting for some additional information from the sanitary and storm sewer, and then we will be putting together the final budget book.
We should have that done by the end of the year. GBMSD doesn't actually approve their sanitary sewer rates until mid-December. So it's usually our final meeting of the Common Council in December that those rates are approved.
And then we're also working on the tax roll preparation this week and next week. We're going to be heavy into getting that information all sent over to the county, getting our statement of taxes pulled together, and getting the sign off so that they can run a tax bill probably by about the first week to second week of December. Elections, we're finalizing all the reporting. We have to do that within the next 30 days. It's a pretty tight deadline on that.
So we are, in some situations, we are working overtime in order to complete it on a timely basis. So like this week, we are pushing the limit on some, or we're pushing people to overtime in order to complete this on time. So I believe, I don't know if it's November 30th or if it's 30 days after the funding, but we are under a tight timeline to get it all done.
And that's it.
Move to receive and place on file.
A second.
Motion and second to receive and place on file the director report.
You
All in
just
favor?
said something about that.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Yes, Alderman Steuer, you want to
I
add
was
something?
just commending Director Fuller on her service with the city.
Thank you, it's been an honor to be your finance director.
And I just wanted to thank you for your service.
Hey, I'm having a soiree next
You are?
Tuesday at 5:30 if you'd like to join me at Fox Harbor Club.
This will be live streamed all over YouTube tomorrow, so you might have an audience there, so. Great. All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nada. All right,
Aye.
great, thank you.